Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Odoo Experience for this talk about the typography. I'm quickly going to introduce myself. My name is Charles. I'm a web designer. I've been a web designer for 10 years now. And I joined the Odoo team 3 years ago when the web design team had just been created. And since then, we've been creating more than 200 beautiful websites. And as you can see, that's the team. It's quite an old picture. So we have new designers now. You might see them at the event, so don't hesitate to talk to them. Okay, let's talk about typography. So I think the first thing that it's important to understand is what is typography and why is typography important in web design and design as a whole. So for this, I have a definition for you. Typography is the art of arranging letters and text in a way that ensures the content is legible, clear, and visually engaging for the reader. So, to answer the second question, why is typography so important in design? Well, actually, the answer lies in this definition. Typography is important because it makes the content legible and it makes it visually engaging. So in this talk, we're going to see two main topics. The first one is how to choose your fonts, and the second one is a few typography rules. And of course, we're going to go in the website builder, and I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks. So how do you choose your fonts? Because there are many different fonts. So to make it easier for you, I categorized all the different font families in 4 main categories. The first one is serif fonts, and you might recognize them because they have a little feet at the bottom, as you can see. And in terms of design, it's usually more classical or traditional. The second one is sans serif, and this type of typeface doesn't have the little feet at the bottom of the letters. And this is more modern looking and usually more legible on screens. The third one is script or handwritten fonts, like the one you see in the Odoo branding, at the Odoo experience on the Odoo website. And this is great to convey creativity, and so yeah, it's also a good option. And the last one is decorative font, and these are usually more eye-catchy. So these are the 4 main types of fonts. And the first advice I can give you is to avoid using decorative fonts. And this is because decorative fonts can be very hard to read when there's a lot of content, so we usually avoid them. This can be the case for script fonts as well, but as long as you stick to the headings and you don't use script fonts for the main content, that's fine. Another advice that I can give you is to avoid using too many fonts on your website. And that's for 2 reasons. Firstly, it makes your website look unprofessional and unstructured. And secondly, for loading time. The more fonts you're going to upload on your website, the more time it's going to take to load. So that's why, as web designer, we usually suggest to use a maximum of 2 fonts. And what we try to do is to pick 1 font for the headings, 1 font for the paragraphs and the rest of the content. And we try to find fonts that are complementary to each other. And that's what we called font pairing. So as you can see here, I've got a few examples of font pairing. Here we've got the serif font for the headings and the sans serif font for the paragraph, which creates a nice contrast. But you can also use a sans serif font for the headings and the paragraphs to have a more modern look and feel. So when we talk about font pairing, the most important thing to do is to explore the different possibilities and try to have fun. So, okay, that's all very interesting. There are different types of fonts. You can group them, match them together to create a font pairing. But where do I find these fonts? Well, there are different options. And the first one is Google Fonts. And Google Fonts is a great tool because you have access to thousands of different fonts that are totally free. And if you go to the Google Font website, for example, you can see you can also filter them by languages, serif, sans serif font, display, handwriting. So it's a great tool. But what's even better is that if you go in the website builder, so as you can see, here we have a website about the watches, and it's already a very nice looking website, but there's a few typography choices that we might improve. And the first one is the heading here. It's a sans serif font, and it looks a bit too modern and doesn't match with my branding here, which is a bit more traditional and classy. So if we click on edit, and we go in the theme tab, here you can see that for paragraphs and headings, you can change the font family. So by default here I've got Carla, but I can add custom font. Here we've got at the top we've got the select button where you can choose all the fonts directly loaded from Google. So you have access to all the Google fonts directly from Odoo. So here you can see all of them, but actually I found a font that is called Laura, and that one looks really nice. You can see you've got the preview, light, regular, bold, and I'm very happy with this one. I'll just cancel it because I've got uploaded it before on my theme already. And as you can see here, we've got this new serif font that looks much better. So I'm just going to save it. And this, of course, is applied to the entire website. Okay, but what if you've got specific branding that requires a font that you can't find on Google? Well, in this case, you can use custom fonts. And this is a great feature, it's a new feature in V18. And it's amazing because before, in the previous version, if you wanted to use a custom font, you had to create a custom module and upload it on your website. And this would be time-consuming and cost money. But of course, now it's totally free. And if you go back in the editor, in the theme, the client sent me a new font. It's a custom font that is part of his branding. So if you go in here, add custom font, you can see here custom font, and you can see all the supported formats. And all you have to do is to choose your file. I'm just going to find my file. And here it is. This is a zip that contains all the custom fonts. And I'm just going to open it. Save and reload. Here it is. As you can see, now we've got this brand new font called Seasons, and it works much better with my logo. So yeah, that's a new feature in V18, and it's amazing. So I'll just save it. Now I'm going to explain you a few rules in typography that might help you to make your content more legible and also visually appealing. And the first one is hierarchy. And this is very important for accessibility, but SEO as well. And when you want to play with hierarchy, there are two things you can do. Either change the levels of headings or change the size of your typography. And I'm going to show you how to do this. So for example, if I click on my title, if you go at the bottom of the website builder, you can see that I've got a header 1. And this is great because you need a level 1, header level 1 on every single page, because level of headings also has a semantic value. So what's important to do here is to keep a logic. So if we go down in my website, I've got the level 2, that's perfect. Level 2 as well. And level 3, because if you can see here, level 3. This makes sense because these are subsections of this section. However, I feel like this font size is a bit too close to this one, so we don't really see the subheadings. What I could do is change the level here, but then I will lose the semantic. So what I'm going to do is actually select my heading up. And here you can modify the font size. So at 38, use, for example. And I can do that everywhere on my website to play with font size. And what you can do as well is go directly in the theme. And if you go in the headings here, zoom in a little bit, font size, you can see that you can apply a specific font size for each level of headings on your entire website. If you update it here, it will be automatically updated everywhere on your website. So, of course, this is a very important thing to do. Another important thing to take into account is contrast. So here I've got two examples. On the left, you can see you've got a very high contrast, and on the right, you've got a very low contrast. And that makes the content not legible or readable. So you have to make sure that you have a good contrast so everyone can read your content. This is also important for SEO as well. So here on my website, if I go back to my website, I can see that in my content, I've got a yellow text on a white background. And previously, I went online. You can just type contrast checker, and I copy and pasted the hex value of my color, which is yellow, here, and the white background here. And you can see that all the contrast tests actually fail. So this is a problem because the content is not legible. What you can do, go back here, and you can, of course, change the color of the text manually here. Otherwise, if you go in the theme, as showed in a previous presentation by my colleague Amandine, you will also have the color palette. And if you change a color here, you can change colors for text, headings, links. If you change a color here, it's applied on the entire website. So good practice to make sure that all your content has a high enough contrast. Another thing that is going to have an impact on the legibility of your content is line height. So as you can see, line height here is not enough. So the line height is a white space that you have in between each line of text. And that makes the content feel crammed and it's not comfortable to read. This one is too much. There's too much white space. And this one is just right. What we usually say is that the line height or the leading should be 1.5 times the size of the font size. So if you have a font size of 10 pixels, you need a line height of 15 pixels. And of course, you can go in the website builder and modify it. So if you go back in the theme, in paragraph, you can see here that for my paragraph, the line height is at 1.5, which usually is perfect, but of course it's going to depend on the font you're going to use. So here I feel that we could have a bit more line height, so I'm just going to pick 1.8. Okay. And you can see that the text, the content is breezes a bit more, and it's nicer to read. Another way to use spacing is with margins. So margins is the space you're going to add at the top or at the bottom of a heading, and also you can use that in the website builder to make sure to define a clear hierarchy in your content and to make sure that your content is breathing and nice to read. So for example, in my headings here, I've got a spacing problem. The headings are too close to the paragraph. So what I'm going to do is if I go in the theme, in the headings, you also have here margin. And the first input here will define the top margin. And the second one here will define the bottom margin. If I change it to 30 pixels, you can see now that I've got a nice space between my heading and my paragraph. And this makes the design much better. Okay. Text alignment also has a big impact on legibility. And we usually say that left-align text is the best option, it's your best friend. Centered alignment is also a good option for smaller amount of text. But we also advise to avoid justified text, because justified text is nice in print, but in website, devices are responsive. So you don't have a control on how many words, how many characters you have on each line. So if you go back to our website here, at the top banner here, we've got the justified text here, so it's aligned to the left and to the right at the same time. And as you can see, on specific lines where you have less words, you have a big amount of white space between words. And this is also not great for legibility. So, of course, we can change that to improve our design by just selecting the text. And at the bottom, you can see here, apply the left alignment here, up. We get rid of all the white spacing between each word. Line length is also very important, because if you have a very large amount of content on one single line, it's going to be hard to read. And the same thing for smaller lines, as you can see here on the first example. This second example is much better. You can see we have around 60 characters per line, and this is what we usually suggest as well, is to have 60 characters per line for your content. But how can you control this? Well, either with font size, you can change the font size of your paragraph. Otherwise, you can modify the container width, and that's what we're going to do here, for example. As you can see, this line is very, very long, and it's not very visually engaging. So we're just going to click on this block here. And in the content width, you can see that my container takes the full width of the screen. What I'm going to do is actually, you can either use the regular width or the smaller ones. I'm just going to pick this one. And now you can see that my content, which was one big line, is now 3 smaller lines. And it's easier to read, it's more visually engaging. And for centered text, usually 3 lines is working well. So I'm just going to save this. Much better. Text in faces, that's also very important, because most web users are not actually going to read the whole content of your website. What they're going to do instead is they are going to scan the different pages and read the content in diagonal. So it's important to put in faces on specific words or sentences to grab the attention of the web users. And you can do this in 3 different ways. With font styles, so you can make some content bold or italic. With color, so you could change the color of a title or a specific word. And the last option is highlights. And this is a great feature from the V17, and I'm going to show you how to use it. So if you go back to a main title here, you can see that we don't put any focus on any word or any specific sentence. We're going to modify this. We click on elegance. This is the word I want to highlight. Oh. I try not to move the computer too much. So if you go down, you can see here, we've got the highlight option. So you've got a lot of different options in terms of highlights. I'm going to pick this one. Okay. And what you can do as well is pick the color. I'm very happy with the color, but I'm going to change the thickness to 1 pixel to make it a bit more elegant, because the word is elegant, so that will work well. So this is a good way to highlight your content. Another way to make your content more engaging is through motion and animation, but actually my colleague Carlos is going to do a talk about this. I think it's the next talk, so don't miss that. It's going to be very interesting. This is the end of my talk. Hopefully you've learned, and I'll just show you the final example here, that with just a few typography choices and typography rules, choosing the right font pairing, You can improve the design of your website, make it more visually engaging, and also improve the legibility of your content. And I will now answer any question you might have. Thank you.
So we do have a potential question. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
What are the best... okay, we're just waiting for the question.
Oh, the QR code, sorry, yeah. That will make more. That will be helpful. Sorry about that. It's not that I didn't want to answer your question.
So what are the best typography practices to enhance user engagement?
Well, as I said before, you can highlight some content with shapes, with bold text. Choose the right font families. Play with font pairing, and also if you had a bit of animation or transitions on your website, it's a nice way to make it more engaging as well.
Okay, yeah. So the question was more engaging and to improve conversion rate in e-commerce. So,
but it's not going. If you improve the general typography and look and feel of your website, it's going to have an impact on the conversion rate. Yes.
Do you have website giving nice pair of fonts?
There's a lot of font pairing websites. Maybe if you just go to Google and type font pairing, you can see that this is still displayed. Yeah. You get a lot of different websites that give you suggestions of font pairing, and if you put, for example, there's a Google Fonts also offer a lot of information about Google font pairing. So if you just go to Google and type font pairing, you find a lot of good design tips. Yes.
Thanks. Which font do you use for the title in every Odoo presentation?
Oh, that's a good question. What was the name again? Caveat.
Caveat.
Yes, Caveat. But that's only for Odoo.
Can we use also the typography across other documents as invoice, across mailings?
To be tested. I know a newsletter is not going to be possible because usually custom fonts in newsletter create a lot of issues. So you need to use fonts that more standard, I would say, to be tested in maybe. Sorry? Oui?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the answer is yes. My colleague says yes.
Yes, it's possible. Yes. Can you set margins for headings separately for the whole website? Did you understand my question?
Yes, exactly. So when you go back to the, I'll go back here. You go back in the theme settings. Here in the theme, if you go to headings, so here we've got the margins, and you can see all the different level headings, and this column here is the top margin, and this one is the bottom margin. And if you apply a margin there, it's going to be applied on the entire website.
Okay, and one last question. Best fonts offer the balance between are the best fonts offers the balance between loading speed for mobile e-commerce users? Okay, sorry, the question is not very clear for me. Do you want to read it?
For loading, the best option is to limit the amount of fonts you're using. So to maximum. Actually, you could use 3 different fonts in the Odoo website builder because you can also choose a font for the buttons. But if you use the same font for the paragraphs and the button, you're going to already save some loading time. Otherwise, there's no, I don't have a specific advice for that, no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are done with the questions.
Thank you. Have a good day.